All right, so here it is, the webinar, the 60-minute business plan, how to get started, get dirty, and get your money, wherein I pack 4 hours of workshop material into 60 minutes or less. And with any luck, seriously boost your confidence that you can write a business plan, you can use it to find funding, and you can become a successful entrepreneur in the process. Now, it's a bit of a tall order, but I'm pretty confident that I can help you. Now, in order to fit all of this into an extremely content-heavy webinar, I do want to ask you just remove all the distractions that are around you right now. Turn your phone off, close other browser windows, just watch this on full screen. Try to get as many distractions out of your way as you can so that you can take lots of notes and ask me lots of questions. That's how you're going to get the most out of this. There's a lot of content in this webinar and not a lot of fluff, okay? You've probably watched a lot of fluffy webinars. This is not one of them. This is training, okay? So if you're distracted by your phone or your cat or Twitter or something, you're likely to miss some important stuff. Okay, now this isn't going to be a webinar where I spend 20 minutes telling a story about how I failed and then immediately made $1 million after having an epiphany in Cebu, things like that. You've heard all those types of stories before. So, oh, my slideshow is doing something funny here. Hang on one second. All right, well, hopefully it doesn't move ahead on its own, or this is going to confuse the heck out of you. Hang on one sec, guys. Sorry about that. It seems to be moving ahead on its own, and I don't want it to. Well, we'll see. I may have to just keep a really close eye on it. All right, well, anyway, so some of you know me here, some of you don't. I will give you a little bit of a background. I mean, as I promised, no long drawn-out story about me, okay? Just the essentials. These are the things that you need to know so that you know that I know what I'm talking about. I'm Jessica. I live in Vancouver, BC, Canada. I'm a business plan writer, startup concierge and coach, and a recovering MBA graduate. Ask me later what that means if you're not sure. Owner of Renegade Planner, formerly called Right Ahead Consulting. I've been running this company since 2010. I've worked with dozens of clients, a lot of them in Vancouver, but many of them all over the world and throughout the United States for sure. Collectively, my clients have raised millions and millions of dollars in bank financing and investor financing. I'm very proud of what they've done, and I'm hopefully ready to help you find millions more. So I've worked with a lot of restaurant companies, retail stores, e-commerce shops, coaching service businesses, you know, the whole gamut, lots of healthcare companies as well. So there's been quite a few companies that I've worked with. If you'd like to check them out on my website, renegadeplanner.com/portfolio, you can. You can see some of my shining stars for sure. All right, so let's move along. Today, we're going to talk about a few things. So I'm just going to go over this. So first of all, what the ideal customer approach to business planning means and how it helps you write your plan in half the time. I truly believe that using this approach to business planning works and really speeds things up. It'll be the best way to structure your business plan so that lenders and investors actually want to read it. Okay, there's a flow of information that works best that people expect. So, oops. We go again. So then you'll know when you've done enough market research. I'm going to tell you that, and when you can stop all of that mind-numbing work and just enjoy yourself. There's no need to go overboard with business plans. They don't have to be ridiculously long. And I'm also going to tell you how you can stop telling yourself that you just don't get the financials and learn the easy way to create a budget for your business. Now, there's a caveat here. I can't teach you how to develop a financial model in an hour. Okay, they're way more complex than that. But I can show you how to put together the information you need and create a foundation to build those financial projections later on. So I'm going to give you kind of a starting point for that. And we can talk in detail post-webinar about how to create the actual financial model. All right, so I just want to make sure that you're in the right place and know that this webinar is for you. Now, if you're the type of person who gets distracted by this kind of work really easily, I'm betting that some of you have already checked your phones before I've even gotten into the meat of this thing. So I caught you, didn't I? If you're the type of person who just goes around in circles and gets confused and lost and just stops writing to play Angry Birds every time you sit down to write your business plan, this webinar is for sure for you. If you've seen too many templates and you just don't know how to make one work for your business, you're definitely in the right place. I'm a firm believer that templates alone are totally useless. They're a great start, but you need more than that. You need to understand why you're writing the business plan and have the reader in mind when you're working on it. Okay. This webinar is also for you if you started your business plan 3 weeks ago or months ago or even years ago and it's just still not done and you just are stuck and you don't know why. And of course, it's for you if you just don't get the financial part of business planning. So newsflash, guys, you have to get this part if you want to have a successful business. But fortunately, it's really, really not that hard. People get overwhelmed by the financials and the numbers, but it doesn't have to be particularly difficult. All right, so let's get into the meat of this presentation. I'm going to talk about the ideal customer approach to business planning and why I use it. So let me just explain briefly what the ideal customer approach to business planning is. So this is about designing your plan to guide you towards making your best customers as happy as possible. You've probably heard the concept of the ideal customer before, so I'll just remind you quickly how important it is to know who that person is for your business. It is so much easier to market your company to one very, very tiny segment of people than it is to reach absolutely everybody, because you just don't know where everyone is. But you can find that tiny little niche and then expand to new customer groups from there. Now, so think of it like shooting fish in a barrel, or one of these visual concepts. If you just spray a marketing message out to everybody in the world and hope that it hits somebody that it will resonate with, your chances of actually finding your best customers are very, very small. But if you take some time to research your customer, write down who they are, and then thoughtfully consider where to find them, it's going to be much, much easier to find your niche and then expand it outwards. So this is the exact same approach that I take to business planning. So what you want to do first is think about who you most want to work with. Who do you want coming into your shop? Who do you want coming into your restaurant every single week, consistently, all the time, and grabbing their friends? What kind of client do you want in your consulting business? Who are these people? Think about every possible detail that you can. All right, so their demographic profile, where they live, how much money they make, all of those types of details, as well as psychographic details like how they make buying decisions or things that they value. Now, someone's asking if the presentation is stalled. I'm just going to check. Yeah, no, Simon, we're on the right slide. There is about a 10-second delay, so you might see it skip a little bit, but it's not stalled. It looks like it's okay. I've got a live chat going in another window, and it looks all right. All right, so where were we? So yes, so you want to consider who you most want to be working with and have a really clear picture of that person in your mind. And okay, everybody says, well, but I don't know, like I'm going to have lots of different types of customers, some of them are going to be old and some of them are going to be young and some of them are going to live in Tucson and some of them are going to live in Turkey. I just don't know. Well, you can play favorites here. You can pick somebody that you really want the most, okay, and start there. You just have to start somewhere, and you can build and expand your business and your markets around that. So you design your business plan to support them. Each section of your business plan will be thoughtfully composed around the needs of that ideal customer. So you'll write your market research, your marketing plan, and your operations section with all of this in mind. So if you're wondering why this helps you write faster, it's because each section, all you need to ask yourself is, does my ideal customer need this? So if you're considering a certain type of marketing plan, like Facebook ads, for example, is that something that your ideal customer is going to respond to? If yes, continue writing that part of the plan. If no, switch gears, try something else. Or will spending this money help me solve their problem in a better way? So every piece of your plan kind of revolves around that customer. So think of them as at the center of your planning. This also helps you set limits on your market and your industry research. Okay, you really don't need to research more than about 3 different market segments. Even if you're going to have more than that, 3 is usually plenty, or you're going to start going overboard. And you probably don't have the bandwidth to reach out to more segments than that initially in your business. So that's good enough. So for example, income statistics. If you're researching income demographics in your local area, and you know that 20% of the population makes 40 to 60 grand and 15% makes 60 to 80 grand. Well, if your ideal customer falls into that higher income bracket, you don't need to worry about that other bracket unless it's relevant to another market segment. Now, I will be explaining that in a little more detail in subsequent slides, but is it clear now? Nat, I'm not sure if you're saying it's frozen for you or asking if it's frozen for Simon. The slide you should be seeing is titled The Ideal Customer Approach to Business Planning. Is that the one that you're seeing? Awesome, good. All right, so we'll move along. Again, this is really meaty. If there's questions, put them in the chat. Even if I don't get to them right away, I will get to them by the end of the presentation. So just jump in anytime with questions that you have, and I will get to them. Again, there's a lot of content that we want to go through here. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how to structure your business plan. So if you've got the notes page, this is where I'm going to start taking content directly from your notes page. So it should go in the same order as you're seeing here on the slides. I'm not just going to describe a template here. When you go to a business planning session, you're usually going to just have somebody standing in front of you telling you what should go in each section of the business plan. I'm going to say that, but I'm also going to talk about what the bank is actually looking for when they read your plan. I mean, that's the angle I'm taking as I discuss the essential parts of your plan, because seriously, how are you supposed to create a compelling, interesting, and useful business plan if you aren't shown how to see that plan from a lender's or an investor's perspective? Nobody tells you this. Nobody at all. And so you're just forced to fill in the blanks and hope for the best, not even really knowing what lenders want to see. And that, in my opinion, is why templates don't work. So over the next, I would say 20 minutes or so, I'm going to go over the major elements of a business plan, teach you why each one is important so that you can use only the most essential information in your plan and stop wasting time on analysis that is not relevant. Okay? Hope that makes sense. So let's start with the business overview, which half of it is super easy and half of it is super hard, and I'll explain why. By the way, anywhere in these slides where you see the acronym IC, that means ideal customer or ideal client, okay, just so that's clear. So your business overview is an early section in your plan. This is where you're going to describe the problem you solve and who you solve it for. Now, everyone else who hands you a template says, describe your products and services here. Yes, you do want to do that, but you want to describe them in a way that helps lenders and investors understand what makes you different and special and what problem you're solving and who your customers are. So you want to mention who your ideal client is just briefly, discuss what you sell, and offer a little bit of positioning by describing what problem that you're solving for people. That part is not too hard. Now the mission and vision, this is big, and I do think that you should spend a decent amount of time on developing mission or vision statements for your company. Now, the mission is your purpose for doing this business at all, okay? It's an internally useful statement that serves as a reminder of the path that you're on in your business. And your vision is sort of that future state that you're hoping to achieve in your business in the long term. So when you get off track or you're having a dark day in your business and things are you're just feeling really crappy and things aren't going well, going back to your mission and vision statement can be a really powerful way to get you back on track. And I'll tell you, it works for me so much. I redeveloped my mission recently, and now it's to help 10,000 new entrepreneurs start companies by 2020. 20, and it's a lofty goal, but I think I can get there. And when I'm feeling super crappy, I look back at that and just, I kind of helps me get back on track. So I think a mission and vision are more useful internally than they are for a lender, and you should definitely spend some time on them. The objective section, also an internally useful part of your business plan. You want to choose maybe 3 to 5 short and long-term goals for your business and state them here. And don't just pull them out of thin air, okay? If they're financial objectives, such as I want my business to be profitable by the end of year 1, make sure that that's tied into your financial projections, which we'll talk about later, so that it matches up, right? So if you say your objective is to be profitable, but then your financial forecasts show that you're not profitable, the lender is going to say, okay, what, there's a disconnect here. I don't get it. So think about measurable objectives, very specific things that you want to achieve that will tell you pretty confidently that you are on the right path in your business. And I actually recommend saving the objectives until the end of the plan, until you've done all the other work. Then there's the easy stuff, the legalese. That's just who owns your company. Is it a corporation, a proprietorship, a partnership? How many partners are there? That kind of thing. And your startup summary is just a table that lists how much money you need and how you plan to spend it. Now, if you're including some of your own investment in this, I recommend that you also say how much you're contributing to the business here. All right, so that's the business overview. Next is the market, and this is a big section. So I'm going to spend probably a good 5 minutes just talking about this. So again, excuse me, here's where you want to describe in more detail who your ideal customer really is. But keep it relatively short. 1 paragraph is enough, okay? So, you know, your company works with a specific type of person who lives in Seattle, earns $60,000 a year, is 42 years old, has teenage children, rents their home, drives a cheap car, that kind of stuff. And then talk a little bit about their values. Do they prefer to shop locally? Are they concerned about sustainability or the environment? You know, what's really important to that ideal customer that would make them want to shop at your store or work with you on a regular basis? So 1 paragraph on that, and this is the part that's always missing from every business plan that I read, is that description of who the best customers are. So then there's the market segmentation section. So that's what categories of customer will you have, and which one is your ideal customer part of. So again, you only need about 3 market segments. And again, you're probably only going to have the budget or the bandwidth as a new entrepreneur to support more than 3 market segments. So don't worry if you think down the road you might have 5 or 6. Try to keep it a little bit narrower for now, because you're only going to be able to reach out so far. So segment them. Perhaps one segment of your customers are locals, one segment are tourists, one segment are family members. You know, whatever it is, you probably already in your mind have a pretty good idea of a few different categories of customers or clients that you would enjoy having working in your business or coming into your business, sorry. So break them down into about 3 different segments, describe their behaviors, describe their demographics, and then state which one your ideal customer is part of. Another common section is market size. So you'll see this in a lot of templates. And this is where people totally go overboard with their research. Why you want to research market size is because lenders want to understand the potential of how big your business can get, but they also want to know that you're being realistic about it. So if you're planning to start a franchise that's going to be a global business, that's a really lofty goal, and it's probably not somewhere you're going to get in the first 3 to 5 years anyway. So your market size, for now at least, is probably going to be your local area, or maybe it could be national. It just depends on what type of business you're doing. But this is where people go overboard a lot. You know, you've seen this in business plan examples. Oh, it's $1 billion market, and if we just get 1% of it, we're going to be super rich. And those kinds of statements really don't make any sense. They're completely vague. They don't describe how you're going to get there. So in order to develop the section on market size, you basically want to do a little bit of demographic analysis on your 3 market segments that you've chosen and add up They're the reasonable estimates that you've come up with on their size to estimate how big your company could potentially get, how many people you could potentially serve. Now, keep in mind, you'll have competitors who are also trying to reach these same market segments. So your market size is the total number of potential customers that are out there. You will only be able to access a piece of them because your competitors will get the rest, and that's okay. How are we doing? Is it making sense so far? I was figuring there would probably be some questions about market research and market size. And I will talk about where to find that information on the next slide as well. Okay, awesome. Thank you. I see everyone's gone to Anon. I know it's frustrating. All right. So moving on from the market section, we have a related section of your plan, which is industry trends. So this is where you want to take a macro view, sort of a big picture world view of the industry that you're operating in. So if you're in the restaurant, if you're operating a restaurant, you would want to look at the food and beverage industry. A hotel, you want to look even larger at the hospitality industry. If you're a coach or a consultant, you want to look at everyone from Deloitte down to the freelance consultants that work in your area to try and figure out what's going on in the world that you're doing business in. So consider questions like, are companies similar to yours shrinking, or are they getting bigger, and why is that happening? Are there just a few big players in your market? For example, in telecommunications, you usually only have a few very large competitors, or are there lots and lots of small competitors? So in the restaurant industry, you're going to have dozens or hundreds or even thousands of restaurants in your local area. So you have many, many small players that you have to compete with. So you want to acknowledge that. Consider whether it's easy for new competition to come and take market share or take new customers. So we call this barriers to entry in business speak, but really, is it just like, how easy is it to start a business in your industry? Are there regulatory barriers? Is it prohibitively expensive for most people to start companies, or is it super easy? Can I just take $200 and buy a domain name and a few Facebook ads and get going? So those are things that you want to acknowledge. You also want to think about how regulated your industry is. So are there a lot of laws and rules that you have to follow, or is it pretty straightforward, just about anybody can operate there? As well, who are the suppliers for this industry? So where do raw materials come from? If you have a restaurant, Simon, because you're here, I'm just going to keep using this example. If you have a restaurant, your raw materials are your ingredients. You're probably getting your ingredients from distributors or from farms. What happens if there's a drought, okay, and prices go up? What happens if there's crazy currency exchanges like we're having now and prices go up? What are the kinds of risks that are involved there? You want to acknowledge that. Now, this stuff is important because lenders want to know that you've done your research. I mean, it's really as simple as that. They want to show that you have taken the time to present unbiased information that shows the positive and the negative factors of your industry. It shows that you've considered the risks, that you know what's going on. And if it's not an industry that they're familiar with, it helps them assess your likelihood of success. That's why the industry analysis is so important. But again, it doesn't have to be crazy long, right? You're looking at, a page or two. And why I say it doesn't have to be crazy long is because honestly, the lenders are not going to read more than that. They'll get through a few paragraphs, and if it seems like you're making sense and they understand the flow of information, that's it, they're going to stop. So you don't need these really long market analysis and industry analysis that used to be requested in business plans. Now, if you're wondering where to get this information, because I get this question a lot, well, okay, I get what I'm supposed to do, but how do I find it? Well, you want to start with associations, certifying and regulatory bodies, government websites, and even nonprofits. So if you are opening a massage business, for example, check out the Massage Therapy Association for reports. If you're starting a marketing company, look at some research from the American Marketing Association. There's associations for everything, okay? The Editors Association, the Wedding Planners Certification Organization, literally, there's a regulatory body for just about everything. Reach out to those people and ask them what they can provide for you. Those associations exist to help companies like yours succeed. So if they have data, they will openly share it, and it's almost always free. The other thing that you want to do is try out big agencies. So Deloitte, Accenture, KPMG, big corporations like Walmart, MasterCard, they'll release industry reports on industries that matter to them. And Deloitte and Accenture and the consulting firms, they'll often get commissioned to write these reports on the industry. So you can always check with contacts at your local branches of those huge, huge consulting firms and see if there are any industry reports that they can share. And often these are actually free as well. So, don't be ashamed. They want to get their name out to as many people as possible. They want to be seen as a credible authority. They want people reading their stuff. So they're going to share information with you. Don't be afraid to ask. Oh, I almost forgot competition was even on this slide. So once you've done all the work of looking at your industry and you really understand what's involved in being a part of it, you want to look at how many other companies exist that are a lot like yours. Now, again, we're looking at this from your ideal customer's perspective. So why would your ideal customer choose a competitor over you? Who else would they consider buying from and why? It's not enough to say that you are the best bike store in the whole city of Cincinnati because you have the best customer service. What does that even mean? Like, good service means different things to different people. It'll mean a different thing to your ideal customer than it will mean to another company's ideal customer. So explain that. Explain what makes you unique to the people you are trying to serve, and that is your competitive edge. That is the thing that makes you stand out. Always acknowledge your competitors, however, even if your customers are a little bit different. Never say that you have no competition. That is an indication that nobody wants what you're selling, and that's going to tell a lender that they probably shouldn't give you any money. Competition is healthy and it's good, and you want to have it. Now, you could have an oversaturated market, in which case it would be very difficult to stand out. And that's the case for people who provide services such as myself, marketers, writers, designers, that kind of thing. The competitive analysis is extremely difficult in those industries because there's 10,000 competitors easily. So what you want to do if that gets overwhelming is simply break it down into categories. Categories by geographic location, by pricing, by market segments, whatever makes the most sense for you. With restaurants, what I like to do is segment competition by local area, similarity of cuisine. And those are the two main areas. So for example, your local pub is not really competing with the sushi joint down the block. You might want to acknowledge that they're there, but it's not that important. So you do want to look at convenient location with restaurants, and then places that have a similar atmosphere, a similar food. How are we doing? I see lots of yeses and sures, so I think we're good. All right. We're doing really good on time, so don't be afraid to stop me if you want to. All right. Once you've got your market down, you understand your competition, you've done some industry analysis, it's time to start thinking about how you're actually going to reach out to your customers. And what you want to consider is what your ideal client is actually going to respond to. So most marketing plans that I read say, such and such company is going to use social media, and we will be very active in the community, and we will have Facebook ads and blah, blah, and give free samples. I mean, that is so generic. And if you write this kind of marketing plan into your business plan, it's an indication that you haven't even thought of what your ideal customer is going to respond to. And the lender is not going to be confident that you really know what to do to reach out to them. So if you really understand your ideal customer, you can learn where they hang out. And once you know where they hang out, then it's much easier to figure out how to get in front of them. So in the marketing plan section, your business plan, you want to explain specifically what you're going to do and why you chose those marketing activities. You don't have to be right, you just have to be logical. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Right now it's a guessing game. You don't have to be exactly right about what your marketing plans are and what they'll achieve. You just have to be logical. It has to make sense what you're trying to do. So consider all the different marketing tools that are out there. newspaper advertising, social media, farmers markets, giving away samples on the street, media appearances. Okay, there's a whole gamut. You can come up with a list on your own easily. Where is your ideal customer going to be looking for information? Are they watching TV? If they're not TV watchers, there's no point in trying to get into the media because it'll be a big waste of your PR dollars. So think about what they're going to be most responsive to and consider what that is going to be, what that's going to cost. Now, I know most of you are going to be bootstrapping, right? You're trying to keep your budget down, but try not to be too cheap with your marketing plan. The more you can invest in your marketing, if you're doing it the right way, the better results you're going to get. So try to put some money into this, do meaningful experiments with your marketing budget and measure what works. But right now you don't know what works. So what results are you expecting from your marketing dollar and how did you come up with those expectations? So Facebook ads are an easy example here. If you're using Facebook ads to try and get people on an email list and your budget is like $200 a month, say, how many leads or how many people on your email list are you expecting to get for that $200? And it's really easy to look at typical results. All you have to do is Google what percent of returns people usually get from their Facebook ads, but say it's 20%. So for every $200, you're going to get like 40 people or something on your email list. That's great. And then you can convert those customers or those leads into customers later. So consider what results you're expecting from your marketing dollars and explain your rationale for how you got to that. You may also want to consider sharing what you predict your sales cycle is going to look like. And that means how long is it going to take from the moment you collect a new lead to the time that customer buys from you. If you're in a retail environment, obviously that's going to be, you could probably have your sales cycle down to like 20 minutes. But there's always going to be people who come in, window shop, leave, come back, window shop, leave, come back, and then on the third time they buy from you. So some retail shops, like especially high-end premium ones where people like to shop around, you're going to have a much longer sales cycle. If you're in services, your sales cycle could be anywhere from a couple of days up to a month. What do you think it's going to be, and why do you think it's going to be that? Again, you don't have to be right. You just have to be logical. And then finally, what will your marketing messages contain so that your ideal customer understands that you are the best one? You are better than all of your competition, and it will make them want to come to you. That is the message that you're going to be sending through that marketing. I think that the marketing plan section of a business plan is probably at least 20% of the work, because you just don't want to gloss over this. You are experimenting and figuring out as you go along, but if you don't have a rationale to come, like a place to come from when you start, you're just going to be throwing money away. And that's why people don't like to spend money on marketing. They don't know what to spend it on, so they just toss thousands of dollars out the window and then they wish they hadn't done it, and it becomes a sunk cost. The better your rationale is at the beginning, and the more metrics you put in place to actually evaluate the results of the work of the marketing dollars that you're spending, the better off you're going to be. All right, so then we move on to the SWOT and the risk analysis. Okay, SWOT, you probably have seen this acronym. It stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And every lender wants to see a decent SWOT analysis. The strengths and the weaknesses, these are things that are internal to your company. Okay, so these are things that you are really good at. If you have a patent on a new device, for example, that's a huge strength. If you are a really experienced marketer and you've spent 15 years in the marketing industry, mounting successful campaigns for the industry that you're in now, that's fantastic. That's a huge strength. You might also have some significant weaknesses. For example, your competitors might simply have more cash flow than you, and you're bootstrapping right now. So your lack of capital could be a weakness. Lack of experience, perhaps in finances, might be a weakness. Or maybe you're missing an essential partner on your team that you know you need for your company to succeed. Don't be afraid to acknowledge these things, all right? So those are internal. Strengths and weaknesses are internal factors. Opportunities and threats are external factors. So these are things that are happening outside your company that may hurt you or help you. So an opportunity might be Here's one. Equity crowdfunding is a new thing right now. People are starting to raise money by crowdfunding and actually selling shares of their business. And there's a huge opportunity in this industry today, which is that it's just been opened up to non-accredited investors. That means anybody, you, me, anybody could put $1,000 or $2,000 into a little startup and help them raise some money and get a few shares. That's a massive opportunity. That would be something that would be acknowledged in a SWOT analysis. At the same time, there could be major threats to your industry. If you're an exporter right now, currency exchange, this is a huge thing, right? So our dollar relative to the dollars of the companies that you are exporting to could make a big difference as to whether your company succeeds or fails in the long term. Right now, exporting from Canada is awesome because our dollar is low. But if that were to change in 5 or 10 years, that could present a significant threat to your ongoing company. So you do want to acknowledge these things. You know, it's really okay to acknowledge the downside to your business. It's not a big deal because there's always going to be great potential as well as great threats in any industry. Lenders want to understand both sides of it, and then see how you position yourself as one of the winners in the industry. So it's okay to talk about the threats and the weaknesses in your business as long as you include a risk analysis that describes how you're going to overcome those things. Okay, so consider all of the weaknesses and threats that you have, and then write a couple of paragraphs that just explain how you're going to overcome them. This is really, really powerful. So not only have you acknowledged the crappy part of being in the business that you've got, but you've also said, yeah, you know what? I'm going to take this cloud and put a silver lining on it, and these are all the ways that I'm going to do it. The lenders really like to see that. They know you've thought about it, you've really considered how you're going to succeed in this industry, and you know pretty much exactly what you need to do. Whew, that's a lot of stuff. I'm going to take a sip of water. If you've got some questions, pop them in. I'm watching. All right, moving on. There's 2 more sections. If you're following along with the notes, there's 2 more slides, actually in 4 more sections, and then the budgeting section. So let's talk about operations. Now, when I'm writing a business plan, I always find the operations to be the easiest part. This is a relatively straightforward thing. So what does a typical day in your company look like? Who's doing what? Where are you located? What are your hours of operation? You still want to keep your ideal customer in mind when you're writing this section and think about how they would like to see you operating your business. So if you've got a restaurant, do you really need an electronic ordering system? Do you have to spend the money on that? Is that something that will actually make the experience better for your best customers? Or is it just a gimmick that you're caught up in right now? Think about the best way to serve your ideal customer and how the business will also support you and your staff and make everybody happy. Okay, so that's fairly easy. And then, and where do you buy things from? You want to also acknowledge your suppliers. The more suppliers you've contacted prior to going for financing, the better off you are. It's a really good idea to know at least some of where you're going to get your ingredients from or your supplies from, because this shows, again, to the lenders that you've done some research and you have maybe even set up some accounts. And you've got some people that you can work with. Ooh, Simon, I'll get to your question in 1 sec, just after I'm done this slide. So the operations section, again, that's a fairly straightforward thing. That never takes me longer than about 30 minutes to write, so it's not that hard. And actually, the management and personnel section is fairly straightforward as well. You want to include your own bio, and if you have multiple owners in the company, you want to acknowledge them too and talk a little bit about their history and their role on the team. Don't go overboard. A paragraph per team member is totally fine. If you really think your resume is important, you can put it in the appendix of your plan. You also want to describe who you're going to hire, what you're going to do, and what you're going to pay them. You don't need big, huge job descriptions, at most just a line or 2. But you do want to acknowledge employees versus contractors. That is, who is actually on payroll and who is on contract. That's really important. Employees cost more than contractors, but they can also be great strategic hires who stick with you for the long term. Contractors tend to float in and out of many businesses, and they might not support your growth or your customers as well. So if you are hiring a contractor over an employee, it's a really good idea to explain why. But again, job title, brief description of the role, and what you'll pay them, whether they're employees or contractors, is all you need for this section. And then make sure that matches what you put in your financial forecast. Okay, I'll pause there for just a second because that was a pretty quick slide. But Simon's asking, if a lack of operating capital is a risk, where do you put answers for that in the plan? Well, I think that that will probably be addressed in a few different places in the plan. But if you are identifying it in your SWOT analysis, then definitely describe it in your risk analysis, which should come right after the SWOT. So, I mean, if you don't have any money, you need to have a plan for where you're going to get it. and you should describe that plan. So, you know, for example, if a bank loan falls through, what's plan B and plan C? Okay, finally, there's the exit strategy. And this is something nobody really wants to think about because, well, you're just starting your business, so why would you want to think about finishing your business? But you do want to acknowledge when you think you'll get out of your company and how. You don't have to know for sure, but your considerations in this area can affect your operations. So, for example, if you were thinking of franchising, you'd want to be working on process development right off the bat because you would need, you want to make sure that you've got clear manuals and clear systems for your company so that you can easily transfer that to potential franchise owners if you want to do that down the road. It's also important for investors because it affects the return on investment. If you're planning to be acquired in 3 years, well, the investors could expect the return on their investment in 3 years. So that would be an important thing to acknowledge. So just consider a couple of options for your exit and put them in. Now, budgeting is on the next slide, okay, but I'm going to say one thing about financial forecasting right now, and I can't stress this enough. Describe how you got to your numbers. How do you know you're going to sell 500 widgets a month? How did you come up with your monthly expenses, your startup costs? Where did those numbers come from? I'm going to talk about developing a budget in a minute, but this is really the most important thing that you need to know about financial forecasting. Why? Because your projections are fiction and you need a good story. Can you pull a number out of thin air and plop it into your budget? Yeah, kind of, you can, as long as it's an educated guess and your plan shows how you got to that guess. It has to make sense to lenders and investors. They cannot infer that information from the numbers alone. So your financial analysis must include a page on your assumptions that tells people how you got to the numbers that you've put in there. Now, we're not going to talk about an executive summary today, but it is the last thing you should do, and it should only be one page. It should summarize the exciting opportunity, why you're going to make it in this industry, and the money you need to start. All right, so again, as I said before, I cannot tell you how to do a financial model in an hour or in, well, 5 minutes, because that's all we've got now. But I can give you the vision for creating some budgeting. So people always tell me they just don't understand the financial part. And of course, this is an issue because you can't really be a great business owner if you don't know how to manage your financials. So there's really 3 things you need to know when it comes to creating your initial budget. One is keep your startup costs separate and understand what the difference is between your startup costs and your ongoing costs. So startup is pre-launch. So before the day that you open your door, it's all the money that you need to spend. So if you're hiring people before you actually open, the portion of wages that you pay before opening goes into your startup costs. And always leave some working capital or some cash because you can't start a business without cash, right? You're probably not going to have enough revenue right away to be profitable. So you're going to be spending more than you're taking in. That cash buffer will give you an opportunity to correct your business and make sure that your revenue starts going up and you can still cover all your bills. You also want to know the difference between direct and operational costs. So there's lots of different terms for this. Direct costs are sometimes called COGS or cost of goods sold. Operational costs might be called fixed costs. You'll hear lots of different terms. But basically, the direct cost is your cost to produce the thing that you're selling. So it's your raw ingredients, your shipping materials, packaging. If you use contractors to perform a service, it's the contractors because you don't pay them if you're not selling. So it's basically a cost that you only incur if you sell something. That's a direct cost. Then you want to understand your operational costs. Those are your monthly fixed, not necessarily fixed, but costs that you're going to have to pay out every single month regardless. So that's your rent, your phone, your bank fees, all of that kind of standard stuff, cleaning, janitorial services, whatever it is. You have monthly fees that you're going to have to pay. And those are operational costs. And you do want to be able to keep those separate in your financials. So make sure that you list them separately before you start working on financial forecasts. Now, one thing that you can do if you are going to have some irregular or unpredictable costs, such as travel, which only happens 2 or 3 times a year, or maybe a big PR media campaign that you only do in October. If you're not sure how much those numbers are going to be or exactly when you're going to spend that money, what you can do at the very beginning, and it's a little bit of a fudge, but it's okay, is you can just choose an annual budget for those irregular costs and just divide it by 12. So that you're basically keeping a monthly budget aside. And if you don't spend it, it just rolls over into the next month. All right, so that's a way to make it a lot easier at the beginning when you're first doing your forecasting, is just simply take an annual amount and divide it by 12. So put all of that information into a spreadsheet, and you've got a really good foundation for your forecasting. You've got your startup costs, you know where they go, your direct costs, your operational costs, and irregular costs, which will also go into operations. This budget is not sufficient for a bank loan or an investor review, but it'll give you the foundation for cash flow projections that they will require, and it helps give you a sense of what it will realistically cost to run your company. So if you are working with a template, you know, like I said, I'd hate templates, but if you're working with a template, but you do this exercise first, the template becomes a lot easier to fill out. Well, how do you know when you're done your business plan? Boy, you've done a lot of work. Whew, and I've done a lot of talking. How do you know when you're done your business plan? Well, is it telling a story? Does it flow? Is it logical? It can help to read sections aloud to see if they make sense when you actually speak them verbally. Have somebody read it over. You know, ask them if they're getting your whole story. Ask them if there's anything that they don't understand about the business or how it's going to operate. Know that your business plan doesn't have to be that long. 15 pages plus tables is almost all I ever write. Almost every plan I read is too long and overdone, not too skimpy on the content. But one thing you also want to do is make sure you check for repetition. So you don't want to be saying the same thing over and over again in your plan. Like, we have the best customer service, and then in the marketing plan, we have the best customer service, and then in the operations plan, we will offer the best customer service. It's redundant. So definitely watch for repetition and try to take that out. Question here, what if you don't know all the budget lines to include? So there's a few things you can do. You can look at sample plans. So you might be able to find an example business plan for your industry on the internet, and you can just sort of go down and use it as a checklist. If you're in Canada, sorry, James, I can't remember if you are or not, but in Canada, you can look up small and medium enterprises industry benchmarking reports. So you can find your industry and download basically a spreadsheet that shows typical expenses for companies that work in your industry. So you can download that and use it as a checklist. And then the other thing you can do once you feel you've kind of exhausted and you can't think of anything else is just include a budget for miscellaneous. And I always recommend that you actually leave about 10% of your monthly operational budget for just stuff you never thought of, because there's probably going to be some costs that you just didn't think of at first that you're going to have to fold in. So that's usually what I do. So industry reports, sample business plans. Of course, I can use my own experience as well because I've done so many of them. So that, and then including a miscellaneous budget. All right, so I need another sip of water. One sec. All right, so what do you do next? Well, you want to be, that is going backwards. It's a good idea to work with an expert to review. So there are local small business offices that can help you, the SCORE office, Small Business BC. You can work with a business coach or a mentor. It's just somebody who's seen a lot of business plans and kind of knows what to look for. You want to be checking your objectives on a quarterly basis, at least in your first year. So go over the objectives that you set in your business overview, see if they still make sense. Are you achieving them? Are you getting close? What's working and what isn't? If something's not working, go back to your ideal customer and think about the reason. So use your business plan as a decision-making tool. Read your mission and your ideal customer and ask, what would they want? Okay, what would they want to do? So if something's not working in your business, you can always go back to your plan and you can kind of get a sense of what's going off. You want to use your financials as a benchmark. Okay, they're both a fiction and a foundation. They present one possible scenario for your business so that when you deviate from it, you can easily see why. And that's why financial forecasting is really important. So that was about 45 minutes of just nonstop in your face. Like I said, this is normally a 4-hour workshop that I used to do. I don't know exactly why you came here today. Perhaps you've been struggling to finish a business plan that you've already started. Maybe you're confused about how to start at all. Maybe you're looking for help with a specific piece of your plan and there's something that's holding you back. Or maybe you're pretty much done and you're just looking for a validation that your plan is ready to submit for financing. No matter which one of those reasons applies to you, I hope that what I've offered today is helpful for you. But if you're looking for more, I have developed something that I think is going to help you take the next step. So what I've done is created a pilot program to address a lot of the problems and the questions that you've been asking in the chat today. And I'm offering it up to you. It's called Renegade Business Planning, because why not? It's a guided business plan rating program that will show you my direct, exact approach to business plan rating while giving you some resources and coaching you through the entire process. So if you've got the framework from this webinar, but you need a little extra guidance and support from an expert, then this is really the program for you. I'll be launching it on Monday, so in 3 days. And here's what it's going to include. There'll be about 10 lessons. They're designed to walk you through each section of your business plan. It's pretty similar to what I've done today, except with more detail and more examples. You will have evergreen access to the course content. That means you'll have access to it forever. All the worksheets and downloads will be hosted online until I release a better version, in which case you'll have access to that as well forever and for free. You'll have direct communication with me inside the course platform. Okay, so I always reply within a business day or two. And what I think is the most valuable part of this is a comprehensive review of your complete business plan. That's a $247 value, and you'll have that to use within 6 months of signing up for the program. So basically, if you sign up today, February 1st, we got what? March, April, May, June, July. August, you would have until September 1st to get me to do your personal review. I will personally complete each one, reading your plan from start to finish. I'll include a complete list of recommendations and action steps to improve your plan for its intended purpose, whether that's loans, investment, or whatever. It'll give you an opportunity to vet your plan through an expert before you submit it anywhere else. So there's no throwing caution to the wind and just hoping that the plan is what the lender wants to see. I will actually send you a report that explains what's missing and what you need to do. And of course, we'll have a 15-minute Skype chat to go over that review, and I can answer any questions that you have. And if you choose, of course, you can continue to work with me on a one-on-one basis. But that business plan review alone, without the course at all, is something that I'm charging $247 for now. And most comprehensive business plan courses like this one are costing between $100 and $500. But this program is new and it's in its pilot version, and that means a couple of things. First is that I would be asking for your feedback. So I'd be checking in with you on a regular basis to make sure you're enjoying the program and finding out what I can do better. Second thing it means is that you're getting it for a ridiculous, insane price. Now, before I regret this, let's just do it. This program is going to eventually cost at least $297, and we're talking US dollars here, folks. So Canadians in the room just know that. But this is the first time I'm offering something like this, so you can get it today, including that $250 review, for $147. Now remember, you'll have access forever. You'll have 6 months to ask me to review your plan. And if I decide to launch an even bigger, better version of the class, you will have access to that at no additional charge whatsoever. If this sounds like something that you would be interested in, and again, I am going to stick around and continue to answer your questions if you have more. So type them into the chat if you want to ask me some more questions today. I'll stay as long as I need to. But if you think that this is a program that could help you complete your business plan, then you just have to click that orange button. You'll see it just to the right of the chat window, and you'll be taken directly to a checkout page, which looks like a less blurry version of what you're seeing on the slide there, or something similar. It'll have PayPal on it. Just click checkout with PayPal, and you can use your PayPal account or credit card to make a secure payment. Now, if you decide to sign up with me by January 31st, I'm going to close this cart in 3 days. You'll have everything that you need to get started with the program on the 1st, so that's next Monday. And we'll be launching right into business planning and taking all the information that you've gotten today and presenting it in a whole lot more detail with direct support and help from me. So I really can't wait to meet you there. Just click that orange button if you want to sign up. And I'm here for a few more minutes. If you want to chat with me or say anything, just let me know. I'm going to stick around. Really, you're good? You must have some questions. And maybe there's just a lot of information that I've gone over today that you might need to absorb for a little while. Again, I tend to go over things quickly because I've written so many business plans by now. I've got the process down to a bit of a science. But, you know, and I understand that it is not an easy process. Okay, you're asking, will you please elaborate on what I mean by explain your assumptions under the financials? Yeah, okay. I will go over that again because I think it is the most important part of your financial forecast. And that is that you must explain how you arrived at the numbers. So, you know, in that slide where I went over how to create a simple budget, you know, looking at your startup costs, your direct costs, and your operational costs, all those numbers are going to be estimates, but you need to explain how you arrived at those estimates. So your financial analysis section, which is usually the last section in the plan, the first part of that should just be an explanation of how you arrived at your assumptions. So if you're budgeting $30,000 for renovations to your new space, for example, how do you come up with that number? Have you actually got quotes on equipment? Have you talked to a contractor? You know, give some rationale behind it. If you're budgeting $500 a month for marketing, say why. Why do you choose 500? If you don't, you know, you just want to experiment with a few things and increase your budget later, that's fine. You know, that can be enough of a reason. So it's all about rationale. All right. Oh, thanks, Simon. Bye. Naji James, yes, you will have until January 31st to sign up. So you'll get an email later today with the replay in it if you want to watch the webinar again. And it'll have the link in there to sign up. Yeah, I am going to close it on January 31st. And the reason for that is that it's a pilot program. So once I've got a few of you running through the course, I want to just kind of launch it and see how it goes. So that's why I'm limiting the time that people can sign up. I may relaunch it later, but not now. And you're asking what will be the hours? There's no hours. So this is totally self-paced. You can log in anytime you want. All the lessons will be available to you at once. And you can work through them at whatever speed you want. So it doesn't matter. What format are the classes in? So everything is going to be hosted on a platform called Ruzuku. All right. It's just an online course program, and you'll have a secure login to get in there. The classes will not be live, although I may do a live chat from time to time just to answer people's specific questions and check in on their progress. But yeah, mostly it's going to be text-based, and I may include a short video with additional explanation on a few of the concepts. If there's worksheets, templates, or resources that I think will help you, you'll be able to download those from within the platform as well. And then below each activity or each lesson in the course, there's a discussion chat, so you can ask questions there, and then I will answer them publicly, so everyone else who's in the class will be able to see the answers as well. Because you know how it is when you're in a class. Usually if one person has a question, 5 more people have the same question. Anything else? Oh, thank you. I think it's going to be really fun. I'm taking 5 years of information and hundreds of business plans and distilling it down into the process that I use. And I really do hope that you enjoy it. I'm excited to get your feedback as well through the program. So if something isn't working, if you're open and transparent with me and you tell me, I'll be able to fix it on the fly to make it as valuable for you as possible. Awesome. Just the motivation you need. Awesome. Great. That's good. Yeah, I'll be logging into the class every single day to check for new discussions. So it'll be, it's going to be as interactive as I can possibly make it. All right, well, if there aren't any more questions, if you think of something after, just email me, jessica@renegadeplanner.com. I'm super easy to reach, accessible all the time. So if you have questions about the course or you're not sure and you don't want to put them here publicly, feel free to email me. I will answer them. I'll give you a hand. I'll help you out. Otherwise, if you think you're ready, that orange button is right there for you. And you can sign up for the class right now, $147. Before we sign off, I just want to say thank you so much for all your interaction, for all the questions. I really, really appreciate you being here live on the call. And I hope you guys all have a great afternoon and the rest of the weekend. And we'll see you online.